You know what sound that is, folks? You betcha. It's another Noon Whistle. I'm Chris Trottier.
And I'm John Anzalone, and we're here with 2014 grad Jake Sawyers. Jake, how are you today?
Good, very good. Happy to be here.
Good. Jake, so you're employed by Walworth County Health and Human Services, but maybe you could tell us a little bit about your travels after high school and how you got where you're at now and the position you're at.
Certainly. So after Elkhorn, I went to Stevens Point for college. From like 7th grade, I always thought I was going for special ed. And then once I got to college, long story short, education wasn't super for me. So I took a semester off school and got a job at a 18-bed memory care unit. My parents said, if you're going to quit school, you got to have a full-time job. And so I was there, and then that's where I ultimately ended up getting my CNA license. Within my 8 months that I was at that location, we went through 3 different managers. And so I kind of was like, I think I can do this job better than those 3 individuals. So I ended up going back and I got my
subordinate ever.
I ended up getting my degree in healthcare administration. And so one of my last classes my senior year was called Issues with Aging. And during the class, we brought in the dementia care specialist for Portage County, which is with the ARDC in Portage County. And for me, that was when the alarms went off, and I was like, this is my career goal. That's what I want to be. Fast forward kind of 5 years, the opportunity presented itself that Walworth County now had the dementia care specialist position. And so it was hometown and dream job. It was a win-win for me, and then was able to come back and kind of take on the position.
We're glad you're back in Walworth County, and we're glad you're back in Elkhorn. I mean, you're both of your parents are Elkhorn graduates as well, correct?
Oh, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
you got legacy rights.
Yeah.
Did you hang out with them, John?
His dad, Howie, yes. And I never beat him in cards. And I think he liked that.
I think there's very few people who have. Yeah.
What card game do the Sawyers play?
Honestly, if you name it, my dad plays it. He's definitely, though, I would say he's a poker shark. He's super good at Texas Hold'em.
Got it. Okay. All right. So here, I have a question for you, Jake, because I love hearing. I mean, this is kind of why we have the Noon Whistle, is to tell these really cool stories about Elkhorn and the Elkhorn connection. So there was always, it sounds to me, hearing your story, there was always this inner pull to give back, to help others, right? Special ed, and you kind of found your calling. Can you pinpoint where, like in your life, what was the catalyst for that? Like, how, was it your parents? Was it an event? Was it an influence? Was it a teacher? An SRO? Like,
yeah, no, I honestly, I think the biggest call to wanting to like assist people was probably Mrs. Blakesley. She was the old special ed teacher at middle school, the Elkhorn Middle School, when I was there. She was, I believe she was also a Stallings, if you like Bill Stallings, the great Elkhorn athletes. But so we had a couple of students that were in my class that needed a little more assistance within the special ed realm. And so it kind of was Miss Blakesley, and I knew that I had a good relationship with her as well as with another student in our class. And she kind of designed the schedule to kind of be a lot of the classes be with the classes that I was in. And from there, it kind of, I feel like catalyzed, where I just realized I very much enjoyed assisting people and helping people. And I, lucky enough, have a patience that not everybody has, but especially in the world of dementia, having patience helps a lot.
Yeah, I think the reason I bring that up, John, is I think about, when we met with one of our last recordings we had, we talked a little bit about that source of influence of people, and you posed some great questions. And it's interesting how, to your question, it always comes back to family, teacher, or coach, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I would also definitely say my mom. Yeah, my mom's been, she's been at the Lakeland Nursing Home since she was 18. And so, especially working with seniors, that's been just part of my life growing up. We thought we were just going to do trick-or-treating, but then we realized we were the only kids in costume going to all of the residents. That was something we picked up later. But yeah, it was just, we always did like volunteer things there. My mom was one of those caregivers who, administration might say that she's doing too much, but she would be the one that goes above and beyond. Like, she'd get off work, come pick us up. We'd go to McDonald's, get like all of her residents some different meals, and then come back and share supper with them, even though she's off the clock, still working. So I would definitely say the biggest gift from her was the acknowledgement of just trying to spread as much love as possible.
And I think you have that gift, Jake. You have that gift.
Thank you.
Having watched you grow up, like, you are patient, you're a fun guy, you're include everybody guy. You have all those qualities, and I'm sure your dad has some too, but I don't want to give him too much credit.
No, he's very much so. Yeah, they, he's definitely a guy that looks out for the smaller guy, for sure. I mean, when you're that big, you get to be able to do that. But no, I would agree.
He does. But so tell us what you're doing now.
I am the dementia care specialist. And so that position itself, it's something to be proud of just because we are living in Wisconsin. The position itself was created in Wisconsin. It started off as a pilot in 2013 in just, I believe, 10 counties. Portage County was one of them. So I got to see kind of the start of it. And then as of 2022, Governor Evers signed in that now every county has at least a part-time dementia care specialist. I'm lucky enough I get to be a full-time, but what we are is, so we work out of the ADRC, the Aging and Disability Resource Center, which is essentially here to help adults with disabilities and seniors get in touch with all of the different resources or services that are in the area to try to maintain as much, safety and independence as possible. As the dementia care specialist kind of position, what makes it really, really cool is I have the full autonomy to do whatever I want. It's essentially like, here's your county. You have to make sure that your ADRC is dementia capable, that you're supporting dementia friendly businesses, and that you're supporting caregivers and individuals with dementia. However you want to do that is kind of your show, just as long as it falls within those three categories. So that's been super exciting for me, just because I get to definitely decide every day is a day I get to pick. There's no necessarily you have to do this or you have to do that. Personally, the way I view the role is I highlight and prioritize the supporting caregivers. A lot of times caregivers, especially with dementia, can feel that they are in this boat alone, that they don't really have any resource or where to go. So for some caregivers, it's just we have one meeting, maybe it's just education on the disease progression, or it's just a list of resources that are in the area. I have other caregivers that we do regular weekly check-ins just to have something to vent and kind of talk about, what situations they're currently facing.
Jake, could you give us kind of the quick lesson on dementia? And what I mean by that is, I don't know if people understand the dexterity issues, the hearing issues, the visual issues of multicolored floors or carpet or things like that people with dementia or Alzheimer's deal with.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting. I think people would like to know that.
No, I mean, you hit that spot on, John. When a lot of times when we think of dementia or Alzheimer's, we immediately just go to memory loss. And that's all we kind of think about is we take what the brain in general for granted about all the things that we were able to do. But when we start to have deficits and understanding that dementia is all of cognition. So everything that we perceive in our reality is brought onto us by our brain, and dementia is going to affect all different categories in that deficit. So like you said, visual spatial relationships, reasoning skills, communication skills. Two big ones are understanding societal norms and being able to actually control emotional responses. So a very common situation that I get is maybe the husband has dementia, wife is the caregiver, and they always went to the same restaurant, but now husband is starting to make really uncomfortable comments to the wait staff. And what that situation is just, it's the impulse control. We all necessarily might say that in our brain, but we understand societal norms and social risks. So we have that voice that says, you can't actually say that. Don't say that. Keep that to yourself. Somebody with dementia doesn't really have that aspect. And so whatever they think pops out. And so then we start to see people like either caregivers being very obviously potentially ashamed or guilty. And so they start to kind of self-isolate and start having people stay at home rather than be out in the community. And that's where my main goal is trying to re-invite people back to the community. The two biggest things that we were able to take away from COVID in terms of the world of dementia is how important cognitive stimulation and just socialization is for the brain. You know, there's lots of different medications that sometimes work, sometimes don't for people, but the two biggest things that do are that cognitive stimulation and socialization. So just having a conversation of back and forth with someone with dementia is actually providing not only, you know, engagement with the individual, but it's actually providing like a purpose and it's some therapeutic aspects to their brain.
So Jake, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I was just thinking something. So John's a community engagement. I'm on the School of Work Strategic Partnerships, and we work with a lot of different organizations. What does it look like to access your services? Like, does the client have to reach out? Are you guys like, how do you guys, how do people access your service? And then how do you inform people about your service? What does that look like?
Yeah, so the ADRC has the way that we operate, because we're part of the county's Health and Human Services, is technically all voluntary. So individuals have to call us, and then once they kind of meet with the ADRC, they'll get assigned one of our information and assistance specialists who really kind of go through what's called what is that called? Onboarding counseling or options counseling, options counseling, and really identifying like what they need, what their struggle is, where are some of the deficits. And then if there is like areas of dementia, they'll then do a referral to me. And then I work with them and just like the dementia aspect, where the ADRC specialist or information assistance specialist will still help them identify like either Medicaid or looking into other kind of benefits or trying to find, lists of services or resources. The big thing is just calling our ADRC. And I will tell you that is something, again, plug to Wisconsin, that the ADRCs, the Aging and Disability Resource Center, like models are now being kind of pushed out by Washington, and Wisconsin and the state of Oregon are the two leading role models of like what these look like. So every county has an ADRC. However, not every person that actually lives in our counties are fully vested and aware that we're here. So what I would say is, if you know how to spread the word, you let me know, because we're trying to figure it out.
Yeah, tell me what's the hotline if somebody wants to call?
Yeah, that's our it's essentially the main Health and Human Services number, which is 262-741-3200.
And Jake, I think you mentioned it, but your services for people with Alzheimer's or dementias are important, but your services for caregivers are so important too, because those people get really taxed and worn down, correct?
Very much so. Yeah. No, I think, well, one, it's sometimes, I don't know how to phrase this. One of the best things that I can see is just the literal weight coming off caregivers' shoulders when they just know that someone, myself, is able to say, hey, I'm here for you when you need it. And like that just immediately gives some weight off some people's shoulders, just because in the world of dementia caregiving, I mean, it feels, especially if it's a life partner, this is someone that you've been able to do all of your heavy decision-making skills together. Now it's all completely on you. Or even if it's an adult child and, this has been your role model for your whole life, and now all of a sudden you're having to take on a lot of these caregiver roles that, they used to do for you. And so those are just heavy emotional turmoil, let alone the physical output. If they're actually doing hands-on cares, it just gets super stressful. So just to have somebody to potentially try to help manage the stress is super, super beneficial.
How does a building or business or school or government building become dementia friendly?
So that is a great question.
Very good.
That is working with either myself or the Dementia Friendly Community Initiative, where I've been working with them. So that's Bernadette and Eric Russo. Shout out to them. They created a great organization. And so I'm helping them do a lot of their dementia-friendly business trainings now, but it's essentially reaching out to either myself or them and really identifying that they would like their organization to be trained, have their staff trained. And then what occurs is after you get a training, you would receive one of these. These are kind of the business sticker windows. And so this is identifying to the purple angel symbol is a symbol that identifies saying like, hey, people here are dementia friendly. We understand that, you might have struggles and we're here to help. Know that you're in a friendly place that's willing to try to assist you when whatever scenario could occur.
All right. In 30 seconds, tell us the value of music therapy.
Music in the brain is one of the most fascinating things I've ever seen. Long story short, if you're wanting to get lost in a YouTube rabbit hole, is the Music and Memory Project. Individuals with dementia may not remember what they had for breakfast, but they could still sing you all of the lyrics to Fly Me to the Moon. And it's just the whole brain actually lights up. And it's not just, our auditory cortex, it's our prefrontal cortex. We have emotions connected to music. We have, certain memories. So like, the idea of somebody with dementia may, like I said, not remember breakfast, but they could tell you this moment they hear the first two notes of their wedding song, they could potentially tell you about their wedding night. And like all of these memories can come back and flood them. And it is one of the most like gratifying things because I work with Elkhorn to do the memory tunes. So just being able to create that moment, but actually then hearing the stories of them seeing it happen in real life, truly amazing.
And thank you for partnering with the school district and our kids with the memory tunes. Like that's an amazing project.
Now I know why I can like still sing every song off of Women and Children First from 1982.
You bet. Yeah. Well, so with that one too, there's actually been a lot of interesting research in talking about like teenage nostalgia music. And so like the music that you listen to in your teens are usually the music that really like, not only lyrics wise you'll remember, but just one of those songs that just immediately kind of puts you in like a heightened mood. Not always necessarily like, happiness, because sometimes people have that one breakup song. And so like that's still, but they bring them into that mode of when they were in their teenage years.
I love it. Well, I'm just checking the time. Woo!
We're getting there.
Yeah. So you gave 2 shout outs. Let's close with some shout outs because I have a shout out to give. You gave 2 shout outs and thank yous. Who do you want to publicly on Walworth County's #1 podcast do you want to announce or shout out to?
Well, everybody. That's a hard question. I will shout out. Then I'll shout out to my wife Emma. She is going to have our baby, maybe our first baby, in the next couple weeks here. So I'll give her my shout out.
Congratulations!
Thank you.
John, who do you got?
You know what? I'm going back to Eric and Bernadette Russo. It just so happens I have a trailer behind my truck today for the Dementia Friendly Initiative with rickshaw bikes in there. And I'm going out to Ridgestone Terrace later this afternoon and give some people some bike rides.
Nice.
I'm going to do a quick shout out to Tracy Bernardo over at the Lakeland Senior Living Center because we have 3 youth apprentices over there working towards or have earned their CNA. So a shout out there. And then I'm wearing a shirt for the Job Olympics. I don't know if you can see it. Woo! Job Olympics at UW Whitewater, put on by CISA 2 and Stacy Duffy to target our 18-year-olds with disabilities to take them through a job interview and make sure that they are career ready. So a shout out to everybody who's involved with that. Chelsea Peters and Emily Lind and Stacy Duffy. It's a great event and I'm looking forward to it. And I'm leaving right now. So
all right.
Jake,
thanks so much, Jake.
Yep. Congratulations on the baby. We'll talk soon. On that note, gotta go back to work.